Alright, so welcome back to the context piece of time-lapse building space elevator again. So today, we didn't do too much, but it was a lot in an instance. And number one priority was to revive or rebirth our ore detector. And it's got quite a bit of an upgrade. So yeah, we left this thing on the ground for quite some time to soak up the sun. I think from 3 solar panels because one of them was damaged, and turn everything off, and it gathered enough for roughly 10 minutes of flight time with the existing thrusters. I brought it back to base, gave it some new thrusters, and I decided to go with the bigger thrusters instead of the fan thrusters. So yeah, one in the back, one in the front, and then 2 on the upwards type thrust. And on the, I create a little bit of a tail here to do some side thrusting as well with the fan versions. So the fan versions, there's 4 on each side, which is quite a number of it. One thing I can tell you for sure is lacking is forward and backwards thrusting. So definitely need to add a little bit more in that sense of it. It doesn't really stop in time or fast enough. So we need to add a few more, maybe fan versions somewhere, or maybe just thrusters up top, something like that. I don't know. It flies fine. It's just not. It just doesn't really stop really quickly. So upward thrust is like pretty decent, and tilting left and right is not too bad. And of course, with the gyroscope moving left and right like this is perfectly fine. Of course, I think we are on a very low gyroscope percentage, 5%. I think we can increase this to 10% now because it's gotten a little bit heavier. Alright, so that's not too bad. And as I mentioned before, going forward, as you see, meters per second, it's not fast, but it's fast enough. But once I slow down, that takes a while. So, not the most ideal thing, but for what I needed it to do, it works perfectly fine so far. And that, of course, was to find some more resources along the rail system. And we were able to find a spot that was relatively close to the rail. Not necessarily close per se, because it was pretty high. The rail system is pretty high up. And it's really close to Ice Lake and the Ice Lake system. Before we get over there, not much else was done with the base here, the main base. So there was a question in terms of why are these solar panels all looking in different ways? Here's your number 1 clue. This one's upside down. This one is right side up. And this one is right side up. Okay. Why is it all looking in different ways? Honestly, I'm not quite sure. I mean, these 2 cameras are not in the same rotation, but yet it's going the same way. This one, not so much for whatever reasons. This is pretty much looking over here more than it is looking at the sun. Not quite sure why that is. Oh, that could be why. Something happened to the azimuth. Why did that come off? That's interesting. That should be this one, advanced rotor. There we go. So either that came off or I just never checked it properly. But there you go. Now that's look at the sun. That's look at sun. They're all looking at the sun in its own kind of way a bit. But overall, it's looking towards where it needs to go anyways. This probably was right side up, but it flipped over from this direction, potentially. I don't know. I mean, it's soaking up the sun. That's all that really matters. So we'll leave that alone. But I'm glad we were able to fix that. And of course, the next thing we did was try to get some more iron. And we try to make it as basic as possible. By being basic as possible, we just threw in some pipes and some pistons right over here with this random drilling like system. And it's something I built quite once before here and there. And this is pretty much the hinge sweeping system. So it's built off of 5 drills, a hinge, and there is a rotor head here, or rotor, so we can spin it next direction and do the sweeping. And the sweeping is not the most efficient thing to do because it's relatively slow. Because I don't want to increase the pistons too quickly. And if I do increase the pistons too quickly, the sweeping is not quick enough to gather all the necessary iron and stone and everything like that. But this is going to gather all the stone and iron that's left on this bit of a hole. So we'll let that sweep for a little bit. We're going to finish this section. We're going to probably end up sweeping a little bit more here. So there's 2 more sections, I think. And I might sweep a little bit on this side as well to get the rest of the iron. Because we are in dire need of resources. A little bit about the hinge sweeping. We have this thing on velocity 10. I usually work with 4 to 5, but I decided to go a little quicker this time around. And seemingly it works okay. Bringing back and forth through a timer. And the piston here, I did one quicker than the other for whatever reasons. And I did a 0.005 on this one, and this one was a little bit slower. But we can increase that speed now since only one of them is running. Actually, it's about the same right now, so we'll let that go. It's almost done anyways. It's just got a few more meters to go. But once that's done, we'll rotate it a little bit to the left. I think right over here. Actually, we'll cover this whole thing. That's good enough to get all the iron that we need for our resources. And looks like we have more stone than iron at this point. But at least we're gathering more things for our assemblers to make more steel plates and everything like that. Alright, so steel plate production is working out pretty decently. Don't have a ton of iron, but a decent amount right now. And that's probably from the iron itself and some of the stone that's being gathered. So we should be okay from there. We'll eventually move that over, start grabbing the rest of the iron. But that's pretty much it from the main base. Now let's fly over to kind of the ice lake, but not necessarily the ice lake just yet, where that is the new mining base. Alright, so here we are, the new mining base. It is relatively close to the ice lake, as I mentioned before. That's the long piping system from the ice lake, all the way over there. And this had to be done, a new long piping system straight down here and connecting right over there. I realized there was a closer connection. It would have been right over there. But it looks like I miscalculated. Oh well. Could have saved us a little bit of resources right over here. But that's not terrible. Okay, so it comes all in from the top, down here, and straight into this connector. And having the rail system connected to the pipe system is a bit diagonal. So I had to rework this whole thing with the ore detecting ship with some pistons and everything like that to get this platform squared and do a connection through a connector right there, which is not the cleanest looking thing, but it worked out okay. I mean, we could have used a hinge to really connect it, but I'd rather have it a separate with the connectors if I ever need to disconnect it and whatever the case is. So that's why that's doing that. And of course we created our chandelier of drills once again, and the chandelier drills is going down really slowly based on 3 pistons. I think they're at 0.001. Yep, 0.001 in terms of going down. RPMs for the advanced rotor should be 4. And it's going to slowly gather the stone and eventually hit down to our iron deposit that's down there. That's the main reason why we're here. 34 kilometers down. And because we were running out of materials from building all this crazy piping and this platform, I did a pre-drill down here in a cross section or plus, just to gather as much stone as possible to refine so we get some more stone, because our welding rig hasn't really moved much at all just yet because we needed a ton of stone. But this is a more simple build. I'm not going to go too deep. I just want to get to the iron and then move on from there. Although I'm not sure if there's going to be more iron around the sides. I know right here should be iron. I know when I did the cross section, I don't see the iron, but it is there for sure. Because once I get down there, yeah, it's about 6 more meters deep. But what happens if you kind of mine out all the iron and then is there another deposit nearby? I think so. That could be the case, as it might be spread out pretty far in terms of the iron, but we'll see how that kind of goes out. But other than that, yeah, that's just our secondary iron drilling spot, which is again connected to our rail system, so it connects directly back into our base. All right, so I think we're gonna get some hydrogen now by going to the ice lake, which we didn't really do too much here at all. Actually, we didn't do anything. The only thing we did was bring the multi-tool down to the ice lake, connect to this connector at one point in time because we were running out of hydrogen. So then that way we could refuel and gather everything that we can. And it looks like most of our hydrogen tanks are pretty full, which is great. And we still have a large amount of ice. So that is a good sign. Although we have a bit of ice pretty much everywhere in a lot of different connectors for whatever reasons. Why is there so many connectors? Some of these might actually be small connectors, but I think most of these ice should really jump into the large cargo containers that are marked for ice. I mean, we'll move that around, but it looks like we got like 2,000k worth of ice left, and most of our tanks are pretty full. So our main resource of power now is hydrogen engines for the time being. So it looks like I don't have to extend this anytime soon. But I am grateful for the tips using wheel or maybe a gyroscope with override to kind of balance this piston out. And definitely going to do that once we are ready to move that forward. So let's move on to the welder, which once again, we didn't really do too much, but we're going to kind of load it up right now with some materials. All right, so we made it to the welding rig, and it's just been sitting here, not connected to a connector. Interesting. Because I think we ran out of materials. Where's the next connector? It's a bit far, so I probably have to back this up a little bit into this connector to start filling it up again. So definitely something we're gonna have to do. And I think going backwards for whatever reason is a lot quicker than going forwards with the thrusters. For the most part, I can't even go forward with the thrusters. For some reason, it's kind of like stuck. But going backwards seems to work decently. And once our landing gears are in, we should be good to go. So this is backwards, right? And then when I go forwards, nothing's happening. So just wasting power, basically. Not sure what that's about, but it could be because it's a subgrid in front. But not a problem, because we can always inchworm forward. And we can always fly backwards to get to a connector anyways. So we're going to pop in the connection. We're going to see what materials we need. And once again, try to keep them at 40k, except for computers, probably at 9 to 10k. Motors, we don't need as much, but we'll try to get it to like 30 for the most part. So whatever I see here, I'm just going to throw in to our welding rig. All right, looks like we got a decent chunk of steel plates, 40k worth. Motors are a decent chunk as well. I'm trying to get it to 30k if I can. There we go. Surpassed it a bit, but that's fine. Everything's at 40, 30, and steel plates at 40 as well, which probably won't get us too far, but it'll get us there pretty decently. And as I mentioned before, we didn't really get too far. We didn't do much from here, so we are still about 11 kilometers away. 11.6. Which is not too bad. All right, so that's not too crazy. So once we have this automated, it should get pretty far down now, I would hope. That sounded terrible, but not sure what that was about. Let me turn off the thrusters because that sounds really bad. Right, so with all the resources that's in there, hopefully we'll get about 14 kilometers away from the base relatively soon, but everything seems to be checking okay with this whole welding rig. Yep, things are looking good. So we'll just let this run, and of course it's gonna eat up all our resources for now until it stops. Then we'll reconnect it and see how far it gets from there. And of course it has a safeguard, so it's not gonna fall off the rig itself. So that's pretty much it for today's episode. Again, didn't seem like we did too much in terms of overall stuff, but it did take a while to do the whole piping, welding up, and of course really making use of the multi-tool for grinding and welding and things like that. So luckily I was able to remake that and kind of rebirth it. But of course, reviving this ship and making it look a little bit different was the main idea of today's video, and actually looks great. I mean, we could probably turn this into something else eventually if we wanted to. I don't know exactly what just yet, but I think we will do something fun with it relatively soon. And of course, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.